So I want to welcome to the show now the director of that little clip we just heard. Well, the director of the movie behind that little clip we just heard, Ivan. He is talking to us from Spain. He is the director behind the Rise of the Synths upstart film. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hi, thank you. Nice to be talking to you.
Yeah, it's really nice to be talking to you. Thanks so much for getting up early over there.
Yeah, it's early here. I'm just taking a coffee and trying to be awake.
Well, there's a lot of people who are excited to see this film made, who have questions about it. Maybe, I've kind of already introduced you, but maybe you could tell the listeners what exactly is Rise of the Synths.
Okay, so Rise of the Synths, it's a feature documentary about the synthwave scene, 80s nostalgia, audiovisual collective memories, and electronic music. It's kind of a time travel into the universe of created sounds of this universe of synthwave.
Okay, so now you mentioned it's a documentary, so I'm wondering how exactly it plays out with the synth writer who we've seen in the promo trailers and whatnot. How does he play into the film and it being a documentary at all? Because that seems so much more theatrical, his role in it.
Yeah, I just don't like too much, a regular on-camera interview type of doc. And, if you're doing some kind of journalistic approach, it's fine and it's a safe path to follow, but I don't see that for that particular film. I would like to do some kind of blending between fiction and documentary and take some risks, like synthwave itself is kind of a risk as a music, in this modern world.
Right.
And I felt this film needed this cinematic approach and some kind of element that will serve as nexus between all of the artists and their own worlds and places in the world, and we needed to find a common thing to all of them, regardless of the language they speak, because they are all over the world.
Absolutely.
And this music is inspired, you all know about late 70s and 80s pop culture, so an anti-hero was like an obvious choice for us. And we created this guy, this youth writer. He's a tough guy with a mission, and he's the watcher of the master's legacy, like guys like Goblin, Carpenter, Moroder, and Tangerine Dream. He's also like a metaphor for this movement, This synthwave thing is like a grassroots internet thing created over a decade, and he kind of personalized these things.
Yes, yeah, absolutely personified. He's the physical embodiment, traveling in the desert, right?
Right, that's right.
He kind of reminds me. Has anyone ever said he's kind of almost like Daniel Craig, tatted up a little bit, kind of got a rough edge.
That's a nice definition. Yeah, it will be like that. Really, it's like a reference to the Knight Rider character in Mad Max. It's like a modern caricature of like a Mario Cobretti from Cobra. Stallone in Cobra. And the unnamed driver Ryan Gosling in Drive.
Yep.
It's like a crossover between those characters.
Between Cobretti and Gosling in Drive. Now, are you a big fan of retro synth or retro 80s music yourself? Were you a big fan before you got behind making this film?
To be honest, I wasn't. I'm a rock guy. I was a teenager in the 90s, when grunge and things like that exploded. So I was like into guitar, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, all these things.
Right.
And what's really funny is that I didn't really dig the synth sounds very much in the beginning, but for the last 3 years when I discovered synthwave, I don't know what happened, but I get so much into it that I rarely listen to anything else right now. So now I'm a big super synthwave junkie,
Right. Oh,
I only listen to that for the last 3 years. It's kind of weird and crazy.
You're preaching to the choir, man. You're preaching to the choir. Well, it's really cool to hear that there's someone who's passionate about the music behind this project. I think that's important because ultimately it's your passion driving, and you're wanting to share the music. How did the idea originate? How did all this start to come together?
It just came by surprise. 3 years ago, a friend of mine who is a street photographer, Ricardo Diaz, He works in Beijing, and I was doing a video promo from his work, and we needed some music to put in, and he sent me a track by email. He said, "Take a listen to this." And, I opened the first link. It's a YouTube link, and I was doing some of the other stuff, and I hear this intro from Cobretti. Stallone, when he enters the supermarket, and he said that I don't deal with psychos. I put them away. Yeah. And I was like, what is that? Right. I don't understand what's going on. And I just look at the title of the video and see Cobretti, 80s Stallone. And I was like, what is this thing? And I was like, I really felt some kind of rejection to this music, as a grunge guy, this cheesy synths kicking in. I was like, what is this thing? But as a filmmaker, the visuals really kept my attention, And I was working on a screenplay for a feature film at the time. I needed to change the focus, and music is very important for me when I'm writing, and it just puts you in some particular mood. So a few days later, I went back to these 80s Stallone and related videos on YouTube, and I started to build a playlist to write along. And after 2 weeks, I was sold to this music. It just came very natural to me.
Right.
I always been very interested in music, and I played very badly guitar when I was a teenager. So. And I grew up seeing 90s MTV, and my own visual universe is heavily influenced by music video narratives.
Right.
So it was kind of natural path to follow for me.
Right. Just like we kind of said before, I fell in love with it, and it's been soundtracking your ears for the past 3 years now. There are many artists involved with the project. And I'm sure you've probably heard this, maybe even received some emails or anything about this. But is the list of artists complete? Because some would argue it's not a conclusive list.
Yeah, the lineup thing is very complicated. We have been receiving since we unveiled the first lineup announcement some months ago. Tons of emails about that. I mean,
right.
Yeah, and right now the lineup is closed. We just don't. It's complicated because we just don't have much room for more artists in a narrative film,
Right.
And it's very hard for us to decide because we love so much artists in the scene. There's so much talent, but I personally would love to include them all. I mean, but I can't. We just needed to cut the list somewhere. We're trying to cover the whole spectrum of single artists, and I think the lineup is very diverse. But for sure, anyone will have a different list. Like you can please everybody. I mean, right. I will definitely include 10 more artists I personally love in this film. But I always try to, when I get this question, I always try to tell people that it isn't really about putting everyone in, but trying to tell a story. And it's complicated because, as I said, everyone will have a different list.
Absolutely. Well, you're going to get the story right because at least some of the big names you have in there, like Mitch Moroder. And I want to ask you, so MPM Soundtracks is regarded by many as kind of the white whale of the scene.
Yeah, I know that.
So he's been confirmed to make an appearance in the movie, a physical appearance, or how is that going to play out?
We're dealing into that with him. I'm personally very proud that he's involved in the film because everyone knows that MPM is like I would say is like the Bansky of the Synthwave scene. He's like this mystery man who apparently started it all. What we are dealing now with him, he's willing to be involved in the film, but we don't know if he will be physically interviewed or he will shoot himself footage following some guidelines, or we will do an audio interview. We don't know yet.
You might have to be blindfolded before you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cell phone surrendered, blindfolded. In a van. You're going to be kidnapped in the middle of the square, and we'll take you to the place to interview.
But it's really nice. That's having him on board.
Right. Very, very cool. Let's see here. Will there be any exclusive music featured on the soundtrack, like a new MPM track or Miami Nights track, or is this all going to be stuff that's been released before on the soundtrack?
We haven't discussed that with the artist yet. We are focusing right now on funding the film, but we definitely love to have an exclusive soundtrack for the film, and it's in our plans. We would love to do something like that, to just an exclusive soundtrack for the film.
So that being said, how has support been so far? I just had the page up. The website is theriseofthesynths.com. Looks like you guys are at about 20,000 of 170,000.
Yeah.
So you're, I mean, it's there's some movement on it.
Yeah.
Has support been pretty good? I mean,
you mean in the Kickstarter or in general?
On a Kickstarter.
In the Kickstarter, I mean, we are in the average campaign thing, you know. Usually they get off very quickly, and then we have after a week things like slow down, and then we go to the end and see what's happening, you know. But we are on average. About the Kickstarter, we try to fund the film in traditional ways, like co-production with other countries, television, and so on.
Right.
And the feedback has always been very, very passionate, you know. But also, we always felt like we were like an UFO, you know, the weirdest thing in town, you know. People look at us like, what are these guys talking about? 80s scenes and and a synth rider in a DeLorean, you know, like they didn't really get what the whole idea, you know.
Yeah, it's very niche. It's a very niche.
Yeah, concept. But at the same time, you know, it's very niche. But at the same time, we all have this collective universe through film and sound, you know. And Synthwave is kind of a thing that brings you this universe, you know. We are all, so this is not really just a documentary about Synthwave. It's a documentary through Synthwave about the universe of sound and collective memories. So we always feel like we have a worldwide audience for this film outside the Synthwave niche, you know.
Amazingly put. Amazing. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, sounds good.
Agree. Yeah, it sounds fantastic. Why should people? I've only got a couple minutes left before the next show comes on air, but I want to ask you a couple more questions. Why should people be excited to get this film made? I mean, what you just said. If what you just said didn't, I mean, yes, but
I saw the idea. I think.
I think so.
I think I just will say to people, you know, look at the teaser. I mean, it's just a 2-minute dream of a truly devoted team. You know, it's just a teaser. It's not the real film. You know, it's just something we did on what we have at our reach at the moment. You know, so expect something incredible if we make it happen with an adequate funding. You know, and this music is passion. There's no middle point. You love it or you hate it, and if you love it, you just don't overthink. You help us to make it happen, because otherwise a project like this one is hardly going to happen anytime soon, you know.
Right.
I have to put something like on the table. There's some iconic name from the late 70s and the 80s that are aware of the project and are willing to be involved in the film, but only if it's fully funded and it goes in production. For a lot of reasons, we can't unveil the name. We cannot say they are, but
you can't say Giorgio Moroder or Jan Hammer or whoever it may
I cannot
be.
say. I cannot. I cannot say anything. But if people trust us, and I would say that you will not be disappointed. You know, if people really knew, we probably would be like 50% funded right now as we speak.
Right. Well, so when it is released, Netflix or YouTube or what is the hope? What's the hope?
It's too early to say right now, but
YouTube
we
for
think
sure.
We think the film can work in a small theatrical traditional way, but very, very, very small and in festivals.
Right.
But of course, I mean, our intention is to go to a worldwide digital distribution. You know, things like, so Netflix is in our radar. And by the way, if by any chance they are listening to this, just give us a call. You know, we'll love to be on Netflix. It's like the natural thing to go.
Absolutely. If this does get funded and made, I will personally try to search out maybe a small venue in Minneapolis. Maybe we could
Oh, that would be amazing.
Hold a little night, a viewing night, you know.
That would be great. This is the kind of passionate thing we love about this scene. You know, everybody is like pushing us to do this. That's nice. Absolutely.
Well, Ivan, I do want to thank you very, very much for coming on the show. Thank you for waking up early. The website is www.theriseofthesynths.com. You can email at info@theriseofthesynths.com. They're on Twitter. They're on Facebook. So if you're interested in checking out the project and viewing the trailer that we played, check out those links, and I think you'll enjoy what you see. Stand by for a second, Ivan, if you don't mind. I'll talk to you off air. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Okay, thanks.
Stand by everyone. For 1 second. Fuse Funk is coming up here. Gonna play out with this song here. I want to send a shout out to Michael Wallace because he posted a video of Chris Eaton, a song, and I've literally been listening to this whole Chris Eaton album all week this week. This one right here is called Golden Rule. Thank you very much for tuning in. Big shout out to Stan Bush for coming on the show. Big thank you to Ivan for coming on the show, waking up at 6:30 a.m. over in Spain, and talking on air with us for 20 or so minutes. It really was a pleasure having him on the show. This one right here, Golden Rule. My name is Noah. Thanks for tuning in. Fuse Funk is coming up.